Good morning, everyone. Join us as we dive into the world of rules of inferences using the SDGs. I am Shahana Haley Escamiling from BSED Math 2A.
And I'm Maria Sophia Marjorie Mania from BSED Math 1A.
And this is our video presentation. Listen attentively and enjoy. As years have passed, the Earth have become more modern and more advanced than it was before. Global phenomena started to occur more rampantly. Issues and problems have been spreading like wildfires. That's why we included the SDGs in this presentation about the rules of inferences.
So let us start with our first argument, which is SDG 2 or Zero Hunger. If the Philippines provides farmers with new seeds or they achieve a more efficient irrigation system, then crop yields will increase. If crop yields increase, then food prices will decrease. If food prices decrease, then food accessibility will improve. Food accessibility did not improve, therefore, the country did not provide farmers with new seeds and they did not implement better irrigation. So we have here our proposition P, Q, R, S, and T, where P, Philippines provides farmers with new seeds, and Q, they achieve a more efficient irrigation system. R, for crop yields will increase, and S, food prices will decrease, and lastly T, food accessibility will improve. Basing from our argument, we now have four hypotheses and what we need to prove.
So, we need to prove the negation of P and negation of Q. So we have the proposition for P, wherein Philippines provides farmers with new seeds, and the proposition Q, where they achieve a more efficient irrigation system. If we negate P, our proposition P will become Philippines does not provide farmers with new seeds. And the negation for our proposition Q, they will not achieve more efficient irrigation system. So we need to prove negation P and negation Q. We already have our four hypotheses given, wherein one is the quantity of P or Q implies R, number 2, R implies S, number 3, S implies T, and lastly number 4, the negation of T. So it shows here that to get the hypothesis number 5, which is the negation of S, we need to use the modus tollens for 3 and 4, wherein modus tollens states that P implies Q and negation of Q, therefore negation of P. So if we try to use the rules of inference for 3 and 4, S implies T, negation of T, therefore negation of S. Next is for the hypothesis number 6. So we use modus tollens to get the negation of R, and we use the hypothesis 2 and 5. So R implies S, negation of S, therefore negation of R. Next, for hypothesis number 7, we also use modus tollens for 1 and 6. Since 1 states that the quantity of P or Q implies R, and 6 negation of R. So, quantity of P or Q implies R, negation of R, therefore negation of the quantity of P or Q. Lastly, for the hypothesis number 8, wherein we finally prove that negation of P and negation of Q, and we use the De Morgan's law for number 7, wherein the negation of quantity of P or Q, we distributed the negation to the P and Q propositions, and the disjunction became a conjunction. So, it is proven that negation of P and negation of Q. Now, let's move on to our second argument, which is the quality education or the SDG 4. So, our statement states that if the Philippines invests in teacher training and provides better educational resources, therefore, the quality of education will improve. If the quality of education improves, then students' academic performance will increase. If students' academic performance increases, then their future opportunities will expand. Future opportunities for students did not expand. Therefore, the country did not invest in teacher training and better educational resources. So we have 5 propositions in these statements, which are the P, Q, R, S, and T, wherein P, Philippines invests in teacher training. Q, Philippines provides better educational resources. R, quality of education will improve. S, students' academic performance will increase. And lastly, T, future opportunities will expand. Out of the 5 propositions, we made 4 hypotheses, namely 1. Quantity of P and Q implies R. 2. R implies S. 3. S implies T. And 4. The negation of T. So we need to prove the negation of P or negation of Q. So the first thing we did is we used the modus tollens for 3 and 4. So S implies T, negation of T, therefore negation of S. Next, we use the modus tollens for 2 and 5 to get the hypothesis number 6. So R implies S and negation of S, therefore negation of R. Next, we use again the modus tollens for 1 and 6, wherein the quantity of P and Q implies R and negation of R, therefore negation of the quantity of P and Q. Lastly, for the hypothesis number 8, we use the De Morgan's law for number 7, wherein negation of the quantity of P and Q. So, we distributed the negation to P and Q would leave us to negation of P or negation of Q. So we have proven that among all the given hypotheses, we proved that negation P or negation Q. We are finally down to our last argument, which is equality or the SDG 5. So, we have our statement. If the Philippines implements policies promoting equal access to opportunities and resources, the gender disparities will decrease. If gender disparities decrease, then women's participation in the workforce will increase. If women's participation in the workforce increases, then economic growth will be enhanced. Economic growth was not enhanced. Therefore, the country did not implement policies promoting equal access to opportunities and resources. So we have 4 propositions out of the statement. Then these propositions are the P, Q, R, and S. So P, Philippines implements policies promoting equal access to opportunities and resources. Q, gender disparities will decrease. R, women's participation in the workforce will increase. And lastly, S, economic growth will be enhanced. So using the propositions, we made 4 hypotheses again, and we need to prove the negation of P, wherein our 4 hypotheses are 1. P implies Q, 2. Q implies R, 3. R implies S, and 4. Negation of S. So the fifth hypothesis, we use modus tollens of 3 and 4, wherein 3, R implies S, and 4, negation of S. So modus tollens states that P implies Q, negation of Q, therefore negation of P. So for using the modus tollens for 3 and 4, R implies S, negation of S, therefore negation of R. For the sixth hypothesis, we also use modus tollens of 2 and 5, where 2, Q implies R, and 5, negation of R. So Q implies R, negation of R, therefore negation of Q. And lastly, for our seventh hypothesis, which we proved that negation of P. So we used modus tollens once again for 1 and 6. So 1, P implies Q, and 6, negation of Q. So P implies Q, negation of Q, therefore negation of P. Imagine waking up in the morning. Your stomach is empty. Not because you're fasting, but because there was no dinner last night, and maybe no breakfast today either. This is the daily reality for millions of people around the world. SDG 2, the Zero Hunger, is about to change that. It's about making sure every child, every family has access to enough food, healthy, safe, and nourishing, because no one deserves to suffer from hunger, especially when the world produces enough food for all. Now, imagine walking past a school, hearing laughter and learning, but you can't go inside. You want to learn, to read, to dream big, but there are no books, no teachers, or maybe school is just too far away. SDG 4, quality education, reminds us that learning is not a luxury, it's a right. Every child should have a classroom, a pencil, a teacher who believes in them, because education is the first step out of poverty and the doorway to opportunity. And finally, imagine being told, "You can't do that. You're a girl. You're too weak, too emotional. Stay silent." SDG 5 tackles about that, gender equality. It says girls belong in schools, in science labs, on sports teams, and in leadership. It says boys can be kind, caring, and respectful. It says gender should never limit who we are or what we can achieve. These goals, ending hunger, giving every child a quality education, and ensuring equality, they're not just part of a UN agenda. They are hopes, they are rights, they are futures. And the best part? We can all be part of the solution by learning, by sharing, by acting. A better world is possible. Let's help build it together.